Last year, I made a video called Why Isn't Gaming Fun Anymore? It was an introspective deep dive exploring what exactly happened that caused me to not enjoy playing video games anymore. And it was following a year or two of disinterest and disillusionment in the game industry as a whole. And reading through the comments on that video, I was kind of shocked on just how many people were going through the exact same thing that I was, considering the video was really just meant to represent my personal mindset around gaming. But I did end that video with this.
But I'm determined to rekindle my love of gaming, and that will be my New Year's resolution. I will begin my search to find the fun.
So, I'm sure you're all wondering, did I find the fun? Well, yeah, I did. This year has been one of the best years in gaming for me personally. Honestly, probably just in general. I spent so much time playing games this year that I may have neglected this channel a little bit. But what changed exactly? And was it about this year that was so different than recent years past? Well, let me take you through what I've been up to this year, and maybe somewhere along the way, if you're one of those who related to my last video, you'll find the thing that's keeping you from enjoying games too, and see how I managed to get past it. While there were a lot of people that found my video relatable, there were probably just as many that couldn't relate at all. I saw so many comments saying, "Oh, you should play this game," or "I don't know what you're talking about. I have tons of fun playing this game and that game." And in basically every instance of that comment, the suggested game was a single player game. And it's true, single player games have been thriving, even in the AAA space. They've been getting excellent narratives, engaging gameplay, and with very few exceptions, are completely free of microtransactions. So, what's the problem? Well, there was a reason I started that video with the section called Nostalgia. And no, it wasn't just meant to be a remember when games were good or back in the good old days segment. Its purpose was to lay out the foundation of the kind of games I grew up with that informed a lot about what I like about games into this present day. And probably the most notable aspect of those games were that I enjoyed playing them with friends. Growing up in the age of the split screen multiplayer, it really ingrained gaming as a social hobby. I am, first and foremost, a social gamer. I just have more fun playing games when I'm playing them with my friends. This is not to say that I don't ever enjoy playing single player games, it's just not my preferred way to play games. And when you look at most of the predatory business practices and the worst of the industry, it is almost exclusively targeting multiplayer games. And that kind of ruined it for me. So here we have a first hurdle, what we'll call the social gamer's dilemma, which I will define as a situation where your interest and the interest of your normal social group are temporarily misaligned. In my particular case, my friends were playing games like Dead by Daylight, League of Legends, WoW, and Lost Ark at the time. All of which I've tried to get into, and all of which I just can't get into anymore, whether it's for poor monetization or a fixation on hyper-competitive gameplay. So what's the solve here? Well, you can't change the industry, or what anyone else is doing, but what you can change is yourself and your own playing habits. So the advice I took was to get out of my comfort zone. Play games you normally wouldn't. You know, the games that look interesting, but never interesting enough that you ever actually want to go out of your way to try them? Well, try them, because you don't know what you're missing out on. Something that's really good for this, in fact, is Game Pass or even Humble Bundle. If you've ever bought a Humble Bundle pack before, I am sure you have a game in your Steam library that you've never even looked at before. Well, try it. It costs you nothing but time, and maybe that's a hidden gem. In my case, I already had Game Pass, so I just went ahead and went through the list of available games and picked out ones that looked interesting to me. And boy, did I start off strong, because the first game on that list was Pentiment. Pentiment is essentially a point-and-click visual novel set in the 16th century with themes of historical fantasy, political and religious intrigue, and as I write this down in the script, it sounds like the most boring possible concept for a game imaginable. And yet, it's fucking awesome. Everything from the incredible and unique presentation of this game to the real consequences of the choices made, especially with the way that the game implements its day-night cycle with an added time pressure. You can only do so much in a day and only do certain things at certain parts of the day, and it really makes you choose which characters and ideas to interact with. And it's just really immersive, unique, and refreshing. It's a game that absolutely is not for everyone and excels because of it, If you have Game Pass, I highly recommend you at least give it a shot. It might not be for you, but if it is for you, you're going to have a great time. Shortly after finishing Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush came out.
Let's rock.
It's a game that feels like a passion project of the devs whose usual work is very different than this one. It very much reminds me of a Jak and Daxter and other PlayStation platforming adventure games from the early to mid 2000s, but with a rhythm game twist. And sure, while sometimes moving around to the beat can be a little bit awkward, for the most part, getting into the groove and nailing the combos is extremely satisfying. And I just overall had a really great time playing through it. And that was kind of the theme here. I was just having a great time playing these single player games by myself. I even began playing through some of the games suggested in my comments by you guys. One of my favorites that was suggested was Kenshi. This is a game made by a single developer that has such a varied selection of gameplay, it's kind of mind-boggling. You could play as a standard adventure RPG where you go around taking out the leaders of various factions, or you could play a more CRPG style with a party of adventurers. You could start from nothing as a slave, escape your captors, and set out on the world to make something of yourself. Or you could play it as like an RTS base builder game, where you start out with a small group and build up an entire city. It's truly a sandbox game, and it's extremely impressive what one developer can be capable of. And while playing all these great games, sometimes the social gamer's dilemma can prove to just be temporary. Occasionally, some game will come out or someone will make a suggestion that gets everyone or most of the people in your social circle back on the same page and having fun playing games together again. In my case, for the first time in like 5 years, my friends and I started playing Minecraft again. We spent several months playing through a bunch of different mod packs and just having a blast. On that note, Create Astral is one of the best Minecraft mod packs out there. It's not 100% finished, but what is there is top tier. The only thing that stopped our Minecraft obsession was the release of Baldur's Gate 3, which is a great time to talk about how this year has been exceptionally good for video games. We have had so many incredible games released this year alone. Hi-Fi Rush, Hogwarts Legacy, Dredge, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which fixed basically all of our problems with Breath of the Wild by using a single clever mechanic to tie in all the pillars of the game's core design in a really fun and engaging way.
All right, you think we have enough battery to get to him?
Hell no.
I think we do.
3 days fucking travel time. Look, you're
Oh, it's on fire! Oh no, I'm on fire! Oh no!
And last and opposite of least, Baldur's Gate 3. A game that is arguably one of the best games released in a decade and one that will likely remain so for another decade to come. And these are just the games that I've personally played this year. It's not even including the games that are still to come by the end of the year. I honestly can't recall another year in recent memory that has had this many great games released. It's just been kind of crazy. And another big takeaway is that all of these are completely free of all of the issues from my last video that are plaguing the industry. Baldur's Gate in particular is acting as a shining example of the kind of success studios can get from just making a good game with passion first. It's the kind of year perfectly suited to restore my faith in the industry at a time where my faith was so low that I created a whole video about my lack of faith in it. Now, I'm not saying that it's because of my video that the industry decided to turn itself around. All I'm saying is that right after my video came out, we just started immediately getting great games back to back. So, draw your own conclusions, but it was definitely because of my video, and you're welcome. And I could just keep going on about all of the games that I played this year, and the ones that I'm still excited to get into, but then this video might just be entirely too long. So in the meantime, if you're looking for recommendations, I highly recommend every game that I've mentioned in this video so far. But there was another epiphany that I had, and I had a lot of epiphanies this year in regards to the topic of not having fun with games. Most of these I expected to learn through playing and trying out different games, but what surprised me is just how much I learned from the actual process of making and publishing my previous video. There was a line in my last video about how I spent more time watching content about games than actually playing games, and it didn't hit me until much more recently that this might have actually helped perpetuate my negative feelings about games. Let me explain. It's no secret that negative content on the internet is inherently more popular than positive content, and it's because of the type of metrics that social media sites use to measure success of the content and how people tend to interact with negative concepts more vocally than positive ones. None of this is new. And in fact, it can be proven by the success of my video itself. That video has over 500,000 views, and it was posted by this tiny nobody channel. And Asmongold's reaction to the video has close to 1 million. I wouldn't be surprised if it is 1 million by the time this goes out. My point is this, and stop me if any of this sounds familiar to you. You get burnt out by a game. Maybe it's some new release that doesn't live up to expectations, or a slow death of your favorite game by the publishers, making money first business decisions that ruin the game. So you stop playing so often and you start just watching YouTube and Twitch, and then you find yourself watching a bunch of hate videos, validating your feelings, talking about how the game is dead and the devs are ruining it. And then all of a sudden, your recommendations are about other games and how the same thing is happening in them, and soon all gaming related videos being recommended to you are about how terrible the industry is and gaming is dying. So now you found yourself in this bubble where the only thing you're seeing about gaming is how bad gaming is. Yeah, I did that to myself too. Just the other day, I caught myself watching a video about how everyone is mad that Blizzard released these nonsense birthdays for Overwatch characters. I don't play Overwatch. I don't care about Overwatch at all. Why am I watching this video? Well, if I'm being totally honest, it's because part of me gets at least a little bit of satisfaction watching the company fumble over and over after I got burned by their mishandling of my favorite game franchises. Starfield is a nice topical example for what I'm talking about. My YouTube recommended is currently filled with a bunch of videos talking about how bad Starfield is. One particularly egregious example is that water physics comparison video with Cyberpunk 2077. I don't think I've ever given a shit about water physics in a game that has nothing to do with water. Like Sea of Thieves, that game's about water. I care about the water physics in that game. Starfield, that game's about space. I don't care about water. So it's very easy to get bad impressions of a game that are not your own impression. Now, I'm not saying you have to play every game in order to have an opinion about it, because that would be ridiculous. What you should do though, is when you get these impressions from other people, make sure that their reasoning for their impressions align with your own reasoning. Like, is this video about Starfield being trash just an excuse for someone to bash on a game, when in reality, they're just mad about some pronouns? Or are they bashed on Starfield because it's fucking boring, just like every other space game for some reason? Now that's a reason I can get behind. Jokes aside though, I do already have a preconceived bias for disliking space games. Because it's true, I do find most of them boring. I also have a preconceived bias for disliking Bethesda, because the last time I played a Bethesda game was Fallout 76. So it's easy for me to just read the title of these videos and be like, yeah, Starfield sucks, without actually knowing. But, you know, it's on Game Pass. I could just try it out, and I plan to, after Baldur's Gate 3, that is, so who knows. Maybe I'll actually enjoy it. Probably not, though. Maybe this was a bad example. The irony is also not lost on me that my other video is now contributing to this problem. Even though I did try to end it on a more positive note, but no one actually watches the end of videos, so it might as well not have been there. All I'm trying to say is, if you're in this cycle of disillusionment and you find yourself like me, just watching videos about all the bad things in the industry, just try actually playing some games. Yeah, that's the big takeaway from this video. Just play games. That's the big epiphany, huh? Yeah. Maybe this video helps someone get back into having fun with games again. Who knows? That's the thing about overthinking and introspective, though. It's sometimes you just land on really obvious solutions to things going on in your dumb brain, and it takes you this long, complicated thought trains to arrive at just the station that's really just one stop over. I should probably just pick up streaming instead so I can do the same thing without having to put as much effort into it.